Welcome to the 2021-2022 ESSA Consolidated Compliance Report Overview for the Title I Part C Education of Migratory Children Report, or PR1200. During this training, we will walk you through each section of this report. PR1200, Title I Part C. PR1200, Title I Part C. The usual navigation buttons are at the top of the report. Part 1, Expenditures from Title I Part C funds, is to be used to provide data on services to migratory children using Title I Part C funding. Use zeros when questions do not apply. Funds utilized from other programs through funding transferability should be included in the expenditure amounts for Title I Part C. Part 1, Expenditures from Title I Part C funds. If your organization is not serving one or more of the types of campuses or providing program or support services that are listed, check all the boxes that apply. Checking a box in this section disables the corresponding subsection in Part B. Expenditures related to required program activities. In Part 1B, for each required program activity listed, type the estimated amounts of Title I Part C funds expended from MEP or other funding sources. If the response is 0, ensure documentation is in place to justify the response. Expenditures related to planned supplemental activities. For each applicable activity listed in each of the following sections by range of grades, example, grades 6 through 12, type the estimated amount of total of Title I Part C funds from MEP or other sources. Totals. This field shows the total estimated expenditures for Title I Part C funds from MEP and other sources. Part 2, Program Compliance Self-Check. Program Implementation Guide. For Part 2, complete this section to indicate the LEA's compliance with the program requirements. For each program requirement listed, click In Compliance, Not in Compliance, or NA to indicate whether the LEA complied with the requirement. By selecting In Compliance, the LEA assures that it has documentation showing compliance is readily available upon request by TEA and or an auditor. If Not in Compliance is selected, use the space provided to describe how the LEA plans to meet the compliance for the following year. An NA is only an option for some requirements and under very specific circumstances that are listed where applicable. Now let's take a look at the first compliance item that we have here. Number 1, the LEA indicates adequate provisions for serving the unmet educational needs of preschool migratory children, according to Section 1304B1 and C4. If the district indicates that they're in compliance, if in compliance, the LEA assures that it has documentation showing compliance readily available upon request. And some of the strongest documentation that we recommend are enrollment reports from TXNGS, for example, district or campus reports, showing the number of preschool-age migratory children, documentation showing the number of preschool migratory children served by early childhood programs, whether they're district-based programs, home-based programs, or community preschool programs, or Head Start, etc., as well as documentation of efforts to provide services to preschool-age migratory children not being served through other sources. If no preschool migratory children are identified by the LEA during the current school year, the following documentation must be readily available upon request. TXNGS unique student count reports showing no preschool age children were identified. The LEA may have other documentation that potentially might show compliance. In the event of an audit, TA or the audit staff would make the final determination concerning whether the documentation is sufficient to demonstrate compliance with the program requirement. Now, if the LEA indicates that they're not in compliance, then they will have to provide in the space below a description of how the LEA plans to meet the compliance for the next year. Now let's take a look at Program Requirement B, Priority for Service, or PFS. The LEA gives service priority to migratory children who made a qualifying move within the previous one-year period and who are failing or most at risk of failing to meet the challenging state academic standards or have dropped out of school. If an LEA indicates that they're in compliance, the LEA assures that it has documentation showing compliance readily available upon request. The strongest documentation recommended are the Priority for Service or PFS reports found on TXNGS, as well as the District PFS Action Plan. Now, when we mention the PFS District Action Plan, we really want to see that the report takes into consideration the unique needs of the district. If you're looking at a PFS action plan that was completed for an SSA district, we want to see that the fiscal agency is taking into consideration the unique needs of the district. We don't want to see a copy and paste type of deal where it's not applicable. We want to ensure that the action plan is looked at every year and is adapted to the unique needs of the migratory population in the district. In addition, the following is required only for LEAs with PFS students. Supplemental program count reports from TXNGS, which lists the supplemental services being provided to PFS students. Please note, if the supplemental program report is submitted, the district must highlight the names of the PFS students. Documentation that the MEP-funded services are provided to PFS students first. The LEA may have other documentation that potentially show compliance. In the event of an audit, TA or the audit staff would make the final determination concerning whether the documentation is sufficient to demonstrate compliance for the program requirement. Now, if the LEA indicates that they're not in compliance, they will have to provide on the space below how the LEA plans to meet compliance for the following year. Program Requirement C, Local Needs Assessment, LNA. The LEA identifies and addresses the unique educational needs of migratory children through a needs assessment and an outline, a comprehensive plan for the delivery of services. If a district indicates that they're in compliance, the LEA assures that it has documentation showing compliance readily available upon request, and this is the strongest documentation recommended. A completed version of the Texas MEP Local Needs Assessment tool, a copy of the LEA's Comprehensive Needs Assessment, if it includes a migrant-specific component, a copy of the LNA Action Plan, a copy of the District Improvement Plan showing the migrant-specific section, and documentation showing how the LEA is conducting the activities approved on the PS 3103 of the ESSA Consolidated Federal Grant Application. The LEA may have other documentation that potentially might show compliance. In the event of an audit, TA or the audit staff will make the final determination concerning the documentation if it's sufficient to demonstrate compliance within the program requirements. Again, if the LEA indicates that it's not in compliance, they'll have to provide a description of how the LEA plans to meet the compliance for the following year. Program Requirement D, Parent and Family Engagement. The LEA has established a Parent Advisory Council, or PAC, for the migrant program and provide opportunity for appropriate consultation in the planning, implementation, and evaluation of the LEA's migrant program. If the district indicates that they're in compliance, the LEA assures that it has documentation showing compliance readily available upon request, and this is the strongest documentation recommended. Agendas for the Migrant Parent Advisory Council meetings. These agendas have to show that there was meaningful consultation in place throughout the agenda. So when we receive those agendas, we are going to be looking for that meaningful consultation happening. Meeting notes that capture meaningful consultation during the Migrant Parent Advisory Council meetings. What is meaningful consultation? Meaningful consultation requires the district to listen and give the opportunity to the parents to express their needs and knowledge of the program in order to ensure that we are implementing the program in a way that truly is helping their children. Minutes for the Migrant Parent Advisory Council meetings. Documentation of attendance, for example, signing sheets, electronic attendance rosters for the Migrant PAC meetings. Documentation that meetings are offered at times that parents of migratory children could attend, and that meetings are conducted in a language that the parents could understand, or that translation is provided as needed. Documentation that the meeting allows for meaningful consultation with an input from the parents of migratory children concerning the planning, implementation, and evaluation of the program. If no PAC has been established due to no participation, the following must be readily available. Documentation to show that efforts have been made to establish a PAC, but due to factors such as extreme geographical distance, low numbers of identified migratory families within the LEA, etc., a PAC has not been established. But the district has to show that the effort took place, and that is the crucial part of this. The LEA may have other documentation that potentially might show compliance. In the event of an audit, the TA and the audit staff would make the final determination concerning whether the documentation is sufficient to demonstrate compliance within the program requirement. If the LEA indicates that they're not in compliance, they will have to provide a description of how the LEA plans to meet the compliance for the following year. Program Requirement D.2, Parent and Family Engagement. The LEA coordinates/provides trainings/resources to parents of migratory children on reading strategies, mathematics strategies, developmentally appropriate school readiness resources and strategies, and/or information and resources about college/career opportunities. If the LEA indicates that they're in compliance, the LEA assures that it has documentation showing compliance readily available upon request, and this is the strongest documentation recommended. The FSI tool, or the Fidelity of Implementation tool, section that addresses trainings and/or resources for parents. Evidence of collaboration with other district programs, training agendas, documentation of attendance, for example, sign-in sheets, electronically attendance rosters, and sample of materials presented. If no migratory children are identified by the LEA during the current school year, the following documentation must be readily available upon request. The TXNGS Unique Student Count Report showing that no migratory children were identified. Additionally, the LEA may have other documentation that potentially might show compliance. In the event of an audit, TA or the audit staff would make the final determination concerning whether the documentation is sufficient to demonstrate compliance with the program requirement. Now, if the LEA indicates that they're not in compliance, they will have to provide a description of how the LEA plans to meet the compliance the following year. Program Requirement E, Evaluation. The LEA evaluates and improves the effectiveness of the migrant program to enable all migratory students to meet the same challenging state academic standards that all Texas children are expected to meet. If the LEA selects in compliance, the LEA assures that it has documentation showing compliance readily available upon request, and the strongest documentation recommended are the FSI tool, the Fidelity of Strategy Implementation, student surveys, parent surveys, staff surveys, a copy of the migrant program evaluation conducted for activities approved on the PS 3103 of the ESSA Consolidated Grant Application, and the Measurable Program Outcomes or MPO forms used. The LEA may have other documentation that potentially might show compliance. In the event of an audit, TA or the audit staff will make the final determination. If the LEA indicates that it's not in compliance, they will have to provide a description of how the LEA plans to meet the compliance the following year. Program Requirement E2, Evaluation. The LEA uses the service evaluation results to improve the services to its migratory students. If the LEA indicates that they're in compliance, the LEA assures that it has documentation showing compliance readily available upon request, and the strongest documentation recommended is the following: a copy of the revised district improvement plan showing the migrant-specific section with additional services offered to the migratory students, the list of improved services offered to the migratory students, any other document showing how the results were used to improve services to migratory students, the evaluation planning notes. If the LEA have other documentation that might potentially show compliance, it will be up to TA or the audit staff to determine whether or not the documentation is sufficient to demonstrate compliance. If the LEA indicates that they're not in compliance, they will have to provide a description of how the LEA plans to meet compliance the following year in the box below. Program Requirement F, Identification and Recruitment. The LEA identifies and recruits migratory children and youth, including OSY, according to the specific timelines and guidance outlined in the Texas Manual for Identification and Recruitment of Migrant Children in order to ensure the accuracy of such information. If the LEA indicates that they're in compliance, the LEA assures that it has documentation showing compliance readily available upon request. This is the strongest documentation recommended. Recruiter logs, reviewer logs, and sample record of certificate of eligibility error forms. As far as the logs, we really recommend that the logs show that identification and recruitment are happening in a year-round basis. How do we show that in there? We understand that there might be highs and lows when it comes to recruitment depending on the populations moving in and out of the district. But we really want to ensure that the logs are showing that recruiters are making efforts throughout the year. Additionally, another really strong form of documentation that an LEA can provide is the Idnr action plan. A proper Idnr action plan will show that the district is making the needed preparations, is performing the activities throughout the year, and is also evaluating the effectiveness of its Idnr efforts. So another great form of documentation that can show that a district is in compliance is the Idnr action plan. The LEA might have other documentation that potentially might show compliance, but as we mentioned before, TA or the audit staff will make that determination. If the LEA indicates that they're not in compliance, the LEA has to use the space below to describe how the LEA will plan to meet compliance the following year. Program Requirement G, Interstate and Intrastate Coordination. The LEA ensures interstate and intrastate coordination of services for migratory children to provide educational continuity through timely transfer or pertinent school records. If the LEA indicates that they're in compliance, the LEA assures that it has documentation showing compliance readily available upon request, and this is the strongest documentation recommended. Emails, showing that there was communication with other districts within the state or with other districts in other states. Call logs, again, also showing that there's communication, interstate and intrastate communication. And probably most importantly, M6 move notifications. M6 is the national database, and it's a great tool to keep track of movements of families as they move throughout Texas and into other states. If no migratory student records were requested during the school year, the following documentation must be readily available upon request. Documentation that shows why there was no request of records from another LEA or had no need for this type of service, and TXNGS student unique count reports for the current school year. If you didn't have any students for the school year, there was no need for a transfer of student records. So by printing the unique student count showing a number of 0, that would be sufficient. Additionally, if you have migratory students identified in the district, but there was no movement out of it. Therefore, there was no need for transfer of records. That would also satisfy the incompliance for this requirement. If the LEA indicates that they're not in compliance, they will have to provide a description on the box below as far as how the LEA plans to meet compliance for the following year. Program Requirement H, Use of Funds. 1. The LEA consolidates Title I Part C funds in school-wide program. If the LEA indicates that they're in compliance, the LEA assures that it has documentation showing compliance readily available upon request. And this is the strongest documentation recommended. A copy of the written approval from TEA. The LEA may have other documentation that might potentially show compliance. In the event of an audit, TEA or the audit staff will make the final determination concerning whether the documentation is sufficient to demonstrate compliance with the program requirement. If the LEA indicates that they're not in compliance, the LEA assures the following reason applies. No other reason is acceptable. The LEA doesn't consolidate Title I Part C funds on a school-wide program. Program Requirement H.2, Use of Funds. The LEA ensures that all MEP-funded services and activities are supplemental. If the LEA indicates that they're in compliance, the LEA assures that it has the following documentation, which is the strongest documentation recommended. District or campus improvement plans showing the migrant-specific section, job descriptions for MEP-funded personnel, copies of emails or phone logs showing efforts to ensure supplemental nature. Additionally, the LEA might have documentation that might show compliance, but that determination will be done by the TA staff or the audit staff. If the LEA indicates that it's not in compliance, they will have to use the space below to describe how the LEA plans to meet the compliance the following year. Program Requirement H.3, Use of Funds. All MEP-funded supplies, materials, and equipment are used only for MEP activities and to the benefit of MEP students. If the LEA indicates that they're in compliance, the LEA assures that it has documentation showing compliance readily available upon request, and this is the strongest documentation recommended. District and campus improvement plans showing the migrant-specific section, logs on the use of equipment, not required if MEP funds were used only for personnel performing MEP-related duties. List of participants. Again, this is not required if the MEP funds were used only for personnel performing MEP-related duties. If no supplies, material, or equipment have been requested during the school year, the following documentation must be readily available upon request. Documentation that shows why there has not been a request for MEP-funded supplies, materials, or equipment, TXNGS student unique count reports for the current school year. The LEA may have other documentation that potentially might show compliance. In the event of an audit, TEA or the audit staff will make the final determination concerning whether the documentation is sufficient to demonstrate compliance with the program requirement. If the LEA indicates that they're not in compliance, they will have to provide a description of how the LEA plans to meet the compliance the following year in the box below. Program Requirement I, Records Transfer. The LEA has local policies and procedures in place to ensure that migratory student records are requested and transferred in a timely manner. If the LEA indicates that they're in compliance, the LEA has to have documentation showing compliance readily available upon request, and this is the strongest documentation recommended. Written procedures followed for sharing and/or obtaining migratory student records with or from other districts and states, records request forms, copies of emails concerning the sharing of student records. One thing to keep in mind when it comes to emails, anything that has to do with student records and that has identifiable information, it has to be encrypted. Additionally, if the LEA accepts MEP funding, the LEA needs to have a policy and procedures in place whether or not it has students identified for the year in the event that the LEA will identify MEP students later on. The LEA may have other documentation that potentially might show compliance. In the event of an audit, TA or the audit staff will make that determination. If the LEA indicates that they're not in compliance, they have to provide a description in the box below as far as how the LEA plans to meet compliance for the following year. Part 3, additional information, optional. If the LEA wishes to provide additional information, they can input that information in the box below. It's important to remember that this is optional. Thank you for participating in this training and for all you do for the migratory students of the state of Texas. For questions regarding this report, please feel free to send questions to migrant.ed@tea.texas.gov. Thank you.